So this right here is one of those underlying conveyance coverages. This is a coverage that's gonna highlight what the NFL is putting down in regards to what they're conveying. Because the people in power, keep in mind, the people in power know who we are. When it comes to the average so-called black man, they just walking around in the haze. They don't know nothing. They don't understand who they are according to the Bible. They don't understand history, none of that. And it's no disrespect. I'm talking real right now. And the reason why I'm talking like this is just to get to an overall point. So when it comes to the NFL, the people in power, the upper levels of society, they have an understanding of who we are. They have to have an understanding of who we are because they control everything. Just when it comes to what we're privy to in regards to the school system, where you go through the paces and whatnot, like the overall doctrine of going to school in regards to history, you learn bullshit. You don't learn truth. So they have the understanding. They conceal the truth and they tell you bullshit because it's all psychological. So the overall point that I'm trying to get to is that they know that we're the Israelites according to the Bible. They already know that. And they've shown you throughout history when it comes to movies and certain books, certain ancient relics, so on and so forth. Even when it comes to the understanding of certain people that we've been accustomed to thinking are white, they're actually black. They know that, but they tell you that they're white for a reason. And that's just me being real. It's no racist, none of that. It's the truth. So Shedeur Sanders, he was picked by the Cleveland Browns, 144th pick. What does that represent, right? We already know the number 144 represents 144,000 that's supposed to be saved when it comes to the elect of Israel. Israel is comprised of 12 tribes. 12,000 people from each tribe will be saved, right? The black man is a descendant of the Israelites. We are the Israelites according to the Bible. We are the true people of the book. The people that stole our heritage, they come from the caves, the Caucasus Mountains, and that's proven. We could go through that in different videos, whatnot, whatever. So it's very important for us to understand what they are conveying. The color brown, Cleveland Browns, the color brown represent the so-called black man, right? The color orange representing the enlightenment of it all, just when it comes to understanding this on a surreptitious level, as well as Moses Cleveland. Who is Moses Cleveland? Moses Cleveland was the founder of Cleveland, of the city of Cleveland. Moses Cleveland. Shedeur Sanders. We already know about the name Shedeur being mentioned in the scriptures. Shiloh, his brother. We already know what that's in reference to, right? All of this comes together. This is an underlying conveyance to let you know that you, so-called black man, you must endure. Just like Shedeur Sanders had to endure and wait until he was picked 144th. What is that? Isn't that like a parallel to the conditions here on this earth where we're enduring until we hope to receive that blessing of being the elect where we're saved? It's the same thing that they conveyed with the NFL draft, just, in a different form, just in terms of what the overall sentiment is. Obviously, it's not the same exact thing, but I'm talking about the sentiment. Enduring, black man enduring. So-called people in power knowing who you are, and they play on that constantly play on that with the Planet of the Apes, Ja Morant and Zion Williamson, the movie with Richard Pryor from years ago. I think it was like in the late 80s called The Toy. His name was Jack for Jake. His last name was Brown. And then you have the LeBron James angle, which is a small angle, but it's a part of it. LeBron James obviously is an Israelite from the tribe of Judah. And, when it comes to certain videos I've done on him, I'm of the mindset of the belief that he is of the royal house, going back to King James. King James was a black man. He was not a white man. He was a black man. And it's so much to that. Just when it comes to the team that he was selected to, LeBron James, the Cleveland Cavaliers, right? He plays the Sacramento Kings. His first game was against the Sacramento Kings, the Lion. And we know that the coat of arms has the two lions on it. And what color is it? It's wine and gold. It's wine and gold, brothers. Or if you want to say red and yellow. But come on, man. The parallel aspect of it is blatant. It's stark. And that's just the LeBron James angle. That's a video that I did before. You know, but it's very important for us to understand. Underlying conveyances are important. It's just as important as the overt. You know, and it's kind of fun when you get to pick up on certain things and it resonate with you. Shedeur Sanders, Shiloh Sanders, father named Dion. We already know, or some of you may know. Let's get into that. Let's get into the name Dion, the understanding of that name Dion. And we're going to get more into it just in regards to the aspect of Moses Cleveland, right? Moses Cleveland, and also the Sephardic Jews with the last name Sanders going back to the Sephardic Jews. So we just want to get into the name origin of Dion, going back to the Greek, which means born of Zeus and son of God. Now, who was born of Zeus? That was Hephaestus or Vulcan. Hephaestus is known as the god of fire, representing enlightenment. And the son of the Most High, or son of God, is Yahushua, who was the enlightener on the right-hand side. But when it comes to the motif, it's all blasphemous because they try to pretty much convey that this is Jesus, but it's all based in the confusion going back to 325 AD with the amalgamation or the mixture or the mixing of the scriptures and the pagan teachings with the whole set going back to Constantine the Great, right? And it's already prophesied that the confusion would ensue. So this is no surprise. You have a lot of blasphemous undertone and motifs in this society just when it comes to the mocking or the disrespect of Yahushua HaMashiach. So Dion, also related to the Latin name Dion or Dion, derived from Greek god Dionysus, Bacchus. Dionysus, also known as the Bacchus, going back to Nimrod, Bacchus, son of Cush. That was Nimrod. He was the son of Cush. And those were the original Luciferians. They built that tower. They wanted to be God. They wanted to be Yahushua. This is why you have the pagan aspect where you have these people who believe that, you know, the son of Zeus or the son of this pagan guy is related to Yahushua or could be Yahushua or all this nonsense, you know, with the whole pagan aspect of Christmas, where they talk about that being Yahushua's birthday and Easter. All that stuff is all pagan. It's not associated with Yahushua at all. And it's so easy to understand once you do just a bit of research and you uncover certain things. It's not talking about Yahushua. Just when it comes to like Easter and Christmas and all that nonsense, it's going into the pagan gods. Ishtar, right? The mother goddess, or, you know, just the goddess overall. Pagan goddess, false goddess. That's what it's going into. Christmas. Going into the winter solstice. Going back to Nimrod, aka Osiris, the sun god. And, you know, there's more to that, right? Also going back to Woden. So it's just so much to this understanding, man. Right? Also related to the Latin name Dion, derived from the Greek god Dionysus, god of wine festivals, and in biblical context, Zeus/Dionysus is often linked to the pagan god Baal. We already understand. And this is just, you know, this is not revelatory at all. But, you know, in a sense it is, because we get an understanding of the origin of the name Dion. But most of us already know this. Like, you look at the name Dion, obviously you're going to think Dionysus if you have the understanding of it, right? So, you know, that right there is just, you know, in conjunction with the overall understanding when it comes to the surreptitious element of this video. You know, Dion has sons, Shiloh and Shedeur, right? So keep in mind that the Sephardic Jews, the Sephardim, they were comprised of tribes of Judah, Levi, Benjamin, and Ephraim. Some of Manasseh, but mainly those four tribes. And, you know, the first ship, it was in Portugal, Spain, after it went into different routes when it comes to the regions, going back to the Atlantic slave trade, the transatlantic slave trade, where Negroes were sold by Africans and Arabs. This is how you understand the bigger picture, just when it comes to the clarity of it all. Since the creation of the State of Israel in 1948 and the Jewish exodus from Arab and Muslim countries, most North American Sephardim have relocated to either Israel, France, the U.S., and other countries. Several Iberian Jewish families also immigrated back to the Iberian Peninsula to form the core of the Jewish community of Gibraltar. There are many Jewish communities in the north of Africa, including the communities of the Maghreb, Egypt, and the Horn of Africa. However, it is generally agreed today that North African Sephardic communities include a fraction of those of Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, and Libya due to their historical ties with Spain and the greater Iberian Peninsula, especially Spain, because that's where the first ship was. That was the 0 point or the starting point. And then, obviously going into Africa and many other different regions. And just when it comes to the connection to Shedeur Sanders, we already understand that name, the last name Sanders. That name goes back to the Sephardic Jews. Deion Sanders, Shedeur Sanders, Shiloh Sanders. It goes back to the Sephardic Jews. And it's very, very important for us to understand. Like, the underlying connection, the theme, these are things that they want you to pick up on if you have a certain level of understanding. It resonates with those who have an understanding esoterically. And I use that in the sense of what the word means, the hidden knowledge. You have esotericism that's left-handed and you have esotericism that's right-handed. And just in general, you don't even have to label it as right hand or left hand. It's just knowledge that a lot of people aren't privy to. It just is what it is. And you have to pick up on it. You can't scoff at it. Because if you're someone who's saying, hey, well, it doesn't matter what happened in history, then you're someone who has been mistaught. You have to consider history. You have to understand that, in order for you to understand your presence and where you at today, you must consider history. That's just obvious. But yeah, the Sephardic Jews, they were of, Shemitic stock. They were black people comprised of one of the 4 tribes of the 12 tribes of Israel. And just the overall point of this video is to pretty much highlight what the NFL is conveying just when it comes to the draft. The whole draft aspect of Shedeur Sanders was just to highlight who the Israelites are. It's just surreptitious. That's all it was. And they do this a lot, especially with certain themes. With Ja Morant and Zion Williamson, they did it. Ja represents Yah, Zion, number 1. They both went to the same, I believe, high school that was, in reference to a lot of different aspects of Israel and the understanding. LeBron James being drafted by the Cleveland Cavaliers and the whole history of King James with the coats of arms and certain references to, LeBron James, where you question whether this person, LeBron James, has ancestry going back to the royal house. The royal house. We already know LeBron James is a Judite. He is of the tribe of Judah. Right? It's so much to it, man. And there's a reason why they praise certain people like LeBron James, because he's set up as a god in this society, because they know who the black man is. They know his royalty. It's just that the average black person doesn't know. The people in power, they know. That's why they control the history. That's why they lie to you, because they have the understanding. They have the understanding. So it's very important for us to consider all these things instead of just, you just saying things. No. Take your time to learn and do some research and humble yourself to the history. It's very, very important. And also the Cleveland aspect. Let's get into the Cleveland aspect. A man named Moses Cleveland, as I said before. What are the odds? Just when it comes to how everything is connected, we have to factor in everything in order for us to come to a better conclusion of what they're putting down. Just when it comes to the underlying conveyance, the man Shedeur had to wait in order for his number to be called. Just when it comes to the draft aspect, kind of similar to us, where we're enduring, and we hope to be of the 144,000. You feel what I'm saying? That's what that was. That's what that was. That was a thinly veiled way of conveying the spiritual aspect to the so-called black man. And also them, the people in power, letting you know that they know who you are. They know who you are. He was drafted by the Cleveland Browns. It just reminds me of that show from, or the movie actually, called The Toy with Richard Pryor, where his name was called Jack Brown. The Brown aspect is just a way of them letting you know that the black man is God's chosen. He is the Jew. Jacob Brown, Jack Brown, Jacob the black man. That's what that represents. And mind you, also with the understanding of the orange, the orange being associated with the Cleveland Browns. Orange representing enlightenment. And when it comes to this whole outline of what they're pushing or what they're conveying, the enlightenment aspect is being able to pick up on it. It's kind of similar to where, like, you have a movie like Moonlight, where there's a woman in the movie where she's trying to convince the little boy that what he's doing is okay. That is a form of enlightenment. That's left-handed enlightenment, but that's still enlightenment. That's why they had the orange juice on the table while they was talking. The orange juice it was symbolic, representing enlightenment. Same thing with a movie poster where there's a woman in the sky with like the Twin Towers in the back, and she's holding a cup of orange juice or something like that, representing enlightenment. That was a form of enlightenment for predictive programming, or for what was to come in the future in regards to the Twin Towers. It's so much. This world that we live in is a stage. That's all it is a stage. That's all it is. It's a stage. And there's so much parallels just when it comes to the understanding esoterically, and just when it comes to the underlying conveyances. Moses Cleveland. You have all these biblical themes throughout this whole narrative when it comes to Shedeur Sanders. Moses Cleveland was the founder of the city of Cleveland. Moses Cleveland. And Moses Cleveland, through my research, come to understand, it's stated that he might have been a black man. There was a article I was reading it was like a few months ago. It was on the history of I forget the name of it. I'll get back to it, but it was pretty much illustrating how the man Moses Cleveland looked, saying that he was like a big dude, like big and brolic, and he was dark skinned. He had swarthy complexion. And we know around that time, the people that was labeled as swarthy, they was labeled as dark skinned, swarthy. Schwarzenegger, Schwartz, Schwartz and Schwartz is the same word, right? So let's just get more into this coverage. You see, I knew it would get back to me. I want to get into this article on Moses Cleveland. It's so much parallels just in regards to the Cleveland Browns and the Shedeur Sanders aspect, just when it comes to the surreptitious element. Regarding how we look, it tells a lot. We already know Moses was a so-called black man. We already know that he came from the tribe of Levi. He was a so-called black man, mistaken for a dark Egyptian. Moses was a so-called black man. He was not what they depict when you just, like, if you go on Google and type in Moses, it's going to be some bull crap just when it comes to how he looked in his depiction. Same thing with Yahweh Shah, so on and so forth. Like, any image that you search up of people that I mentioned were so-called black, they're not going to be black. Unless it's like real history in regards to like conventional wisdom. Because sometimes the conventional wisdom, they'll give you like the real understanding in regards to who was black and who was not. But, the uncovered or the covered, concealed history, they're not going to tell you. It's up to you to understand that. Just when it comes to our people, where we were in Europe and the Renaissance period, so on and so forth. We know about typification. We know about iconography or iconoclasm. We know about these things. So when you see images of a Moses Cleveland or Beethoven or Mozart or Jesus, those are all fake images. Those people, all that I mentioned, was black people. Yes, they were. July 5th, 1796. So this is the article. Moses finds the promised land. Just crazy. Moses finds the promised land. Cleveland. Wow. I got to look up more about just that name Cleveland alone. Like syllabically. What does that mean? Because we have the term land in there. Right? Let's just get more into it. July 5th, 1796. After a merry and liquid 4th of July, the night before, Moses Cleveland and his 50-man surveying crew from the Connecticut land set out from Connaught to find the mouth of the Cuyahoga River, where they would lay out a new capital for their promised land. Promised land. So just when it comes to the parallel, Cleveland Browns, that represents the promised land just in regards to the conveyance from the NFL draft. Shedeur Sanders, 144th pick, right? Let's read more. Cleveland was a burly, powerful-looking man with a swarthy complexion that may have fooled Indians into thinking he was one of them. He was a Yale graduate with experience in the Revolutionary War and had practiced law for 30 years in his hometown of Canterbury, Connecticut. Swarthy. We already know that term swarthy just when it comes to the understanding as far as how they were, referred to. So-called people that were swarthy were dark skinned. They were dark skinned, swarthy, right? Arnold Swarthy Nigger. That's his name, Arnold Schwarzenegger. The real understanding or the breakdown, like just saying his name in a real sense, is just Swarthy Nigger. That's what his name is. So what is Arnold Schwarzenegger's lineage? Where does he really come from? Because not every so-called Caucasian that appears to be Caucasian is Caucasian, right? It's about the lineage. That's all it is. It's not about the complexion of the skin per se. But for the most part, when there's people of color and the phenotype, so on and so forth, we understand who they are, right? And also, like when it comes to certain people who may appear white just in terms of their complexion, you could see their features and you can tell that, okay, that person may have gone back to a so-called black person, just in terms of their facial features, right? So it's not necessarily about the complexion of the skin in terms of just as much as it is, or it's not necessarily about the complexion of the skin as opposed to, the facial features and how they both meet. You get what I mean? So you could have a person that may be dark skinned and he could still look like a Caucasian just based off of the features on his face, even though he's dark skinned. You get what I mean? So it has to come together. And sometimes it's not always 100% correct. Just when it comes to that understanding. Sometimes the person could be an Israelite and he may not look like it at all. You know what I mean? So we don't want to always just jump to conclusions with that. But when it comes to Moses Cleveland and all the connections, it makes so much sense. He founded the land of Cleveland. He called it the promised land. His name was Moses. What? Like, come on, bro. He was appointed general of militia by the state. Cleveland was the logical man to head the survey of the company's newly acquired 3 billion acres east of the Cuyahoga River, plus his own money was at stake. Real estate speculation was a way to get rich or get swindled. In those early days of the American public, the Connecticut investors had paid 40 cents an acre for their Western Reserve holdings. And this video right here is done on the fly, just after my, when I was watching the draft and whatnot. It was like, yo, it was crazy. And then it's crazy because I see a lot of brothers, they picking up on it as well. Like, a lot of people are understanding these things. Like, yo, he was picked 144th to the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland, right? We already know about Cleveland and Lake Erie and the Shoreway and the stadium being located on the shore. We know about Moses, part in the Red Sea. Moses founded, or a man named Moses Cleveland who founded Cleveland. The promised land, he called it. Come on, man. Shedeur Sanders gets picked 144th to that team. The brown element representing him as a so-called black man, letting you know that the people that we have thought to be white are actually brown because they come from the mud of the ground. That rhymes, right? It's so crazy, man. Yeah, this video right here was done on the fly though, so forgive me for my hiccups if you receive it that way. It's just me being surprised, just as you brothers are being surprised. If you are, like, if this is something that's resonating with you, like, yo, wow, this is kind of crazy. So I wanted to get into the breakdown of the name Cleveland in its original form because the word used to be spelled with C-L-E-A instead of C-L-E. And it's funny because it says split or sever. Moses Cleave land. What is Moses famous for, brothers? You can't make this up, bro. Just when it comes to these connections. Split or sever something, especially along a natural line or grain. We already know about Moses and what he parted, right? It's just crazy how like the connections is so it's kind of eerie. It's it's crazy, man. Cleveland, right? Cleave unto the Lord. Cleave unto the Lord, the promised land. Cleave land. It's crazy. And I'll be providing a link to that article so you guys can, read it for yourselves. Genesis chapter 49 and verse 10, the scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet until Shiloh come. So Judah is always going to be the head, even in these days. And we already understand, like I said, just when it comes to the name, as well as the lineage and, the research, Deion Sanders and his family, they go back to the Sephardic Jews. They go back to the Sephardic Jews. They are descendants of the Sephardic Jews. And most of us are as well, right? We are the true Hebrew Israelites according to the Bible. We are. We're going to get more into the Sephardic aspect just when it comes to, the Atlantic slave trade, all going back to the southern tribe, I believe. Yeah, the southern tribe, which is comprised of Judah, Levi, and Benjamin, and some of the northern tribe, which is comprised of Ephraim and the rest of the tribes, Ephraim and Manasseh, for the most part, in regards to, comprising of the Sephardic Jews. But we know where we'll be, or we know where the Most High will send his son in these last days. He's going to send his son on this earth to destruct it. And until Shiloh come, Shiloh representing that place where the Most High shall send his son to destruct the earth and deliver us. So this right here is the book of Exodus in chapter 14. We already understand Exodus chapter 14, just when it comes to the Pharaoh and his hardened heart, him not being able to humble himself to the degree that he should, so on and so forth. In regards to the understanding of Israel fleeing from Exodus, Exodus meaning exit from Egypt. That's what that represented. The NFL draft, it was kind of like a play on that on a small scale, just when it comes to Shedeur Sanders playing the role of, the so-called Israelite or the so-called black man who is a true Israelite according to the Bible, so on and so forth. And he is a so-called black man, therefore he is a true Israelite. Now, I don't know what he's doing just when it comes to, him following the commandments, but that's, neither here nor there, right? I just want to go to an overall understanding just when it comes to the underlying connection, the conveyance. So this is Exodus chapter 14, and let's go to verse 27. And Moses stretched forth his hand over the sea, and the sea returned to its strength when the morning appeared. And the Egyptians fled against it, and the Lord overthrew the Egyptians in the midst of the sea. Just going into the aspect of the parted sea from Moses, through the Most High. And also, this connection is kind of similar or more eerie, speaking of the term eerie, to Lake Erie, with the shoreway in which the stadium is located, the Cleveland Browns Stadium located near Shoreway, Lake Erie. And then you have this connection to Exodus chapter 14 on a small scale, right? And the waters returned and covered the chariots and the horsemen and all the hosts of Pharaoh that came into the sea after them. There remained not so much as one of them. But the children of Israel walked upon dry land in the midst of the sea, and the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on their left. Thus the Lord saved Israel that day out of the hand of the Egyptians. And Yasharallah saw the Egyptians dead upon the sea shore. Isn't that something, right? And one of the mottos for Cleveland is progress and prosperity. So we were prosperous in our exile or our exodus. And the progress that was made was, continuing to use Moses, Continue to use Moses to be that leader for Israel, to get them out of Egypt, out of bondage, right? Exodus chapter 1 and verse 7. And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly and multiplied and waxed exceeding mighty, and the land was filled with them. Right, that's the progress. That's the progress. Progress until we're prosperous, where we're able to exit Egypt, going into that aspect. It's funny, the name Shedeur appears in the scriptures multiple times. And just like most of you guys know, we already understand Shedeur, that being the son of Eleazar, he was a Reubenite. And it's very important just when it comes to the parallels. They're letting you know certain things. Now, Shedeur Sanders, that is the son of Deion Sanders, he's most likely of the tribe of Judah, based off of what we've uncovered in regards to them going back to the Sephardic Jews, just in regards to the last name, so on and so forth. So the 144 element is pertinent. That's the overall point of this video, is just to highlight what the NFL is telling us. And also a few more things about the name, just when it comes to the meaning. Shedeur breaks down into the Hebrew roots. Shah meaning to send or sender. Dor meaning light or generation of light. Sender of light or light carrier, aka light bearer, representing Lucifer. That's what it means. That's what Shedeur means. Shedeur literally means Lucifer. Now you can look at this and say, well, maybe on the right hand is going into the enlightenment aspect, just when it comes to teaching. Like Yahushua, he was the light, he enlightened people, he taught. But when it comes to the upper levels of society on the left hand in the entertainment industry, we already know who they worship. So all these things, it's just bases covered.